Welcome to the Girl with the Peter Spirit podcast. I am Jabez. My VIP today, very interesting person, is Miss Thelma Bartley of Thelkar Communications Limited, which is a public relations and general management consultancy firm. Miss Bartley holds a very colorful portfolio which includes service on various boards within her community. Miss Bartley has also championed and has continued to champion many causes. Miss Thelma, thank you so much for dropping by. It is a pleasure always talking to you.
Thank you, Jabez. It's always a delight to talk with you too. This is such a special opportunity for us to have a conversation about me.
Yes, definitely. The focus is you. Okay. And I want to start from early days, like in terms of career, because you have a very, very bright career, very extensive career, one that is laudable. So I want to know how you started off.
Okay, nice, thanks. When I left high school, I was taken to Shortwood Teachers College by the then principal, some fine teachers at the time, and I was deposited at Shortwood Teachers College. Now you can imagine a country girl, never having left home, going into Kingston to a boarding school.
Right.
Boarding school for girls only.
I can relate. Exactly. I went to Westwood. So, but what was that like for you? Because I had a hard time adjusting.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't hard for me because I wanted to be there. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was my first opportunity to leave home. Mm-hmm. And to live somewhere else. Mm-hmm. And to share an experience with hundreds of girls of varying ages and demographic, So it was a great opportunity. They protected me. I was the youngest and the tallest.
Really?
Yes, I think the youngest and the tallest. Mm-hmm. And it was a great opportunity for 3 years. 2 years on campus, 1 year internship. And very valuable, quite a vast knowledge base, A number of my life skills were developed at Shortwood.
Yes.
Right, so having left Shortwood, I was fortunate enough, after a lovely search, to land a job at a fine school, Knox.
I went to Knox for 2 years. So,
oh, you did?
Yes. So was that the prep school?
The prep school, yes.
Okay.
I taught in the prep school under the leadership of the great Gloria Swaby.
Okay.
Of Girls Guide fame. Mm-hmm. And I went there at just as I was coming out of my late teens.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So
Mrs. Swaby protected me. Mm-hmm. And Knox became another great opportunity. I've been very fortunate to have, lovely opportunities to step into. So I became a scout leader, one of the first female scout leaders in the island, invested by the great Leo Jones.
Wow.
And I lived on campus. Mm-hmm. And that was exciting because I made a number of friends. Oh, some of them I still I'm in touch with today. So the experience at Knox was just so good. And having left Knox, I did a stint at Bel Air, but I ended up going to the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, mm-hmm. which was at the time pretty close to my teaching career. I mean, right. Because of course, teachers had to participate in festival. Mm-hmm. So the advertisement was placed and I applied, just being frivolous, and I was accepted. Mm-hmm. And I ended up at Jamaica Cultural Development Commission under the leadership of the great Hugh Nash. So real great people. Yes. And I spent 10 years there.
Wow, that's
10 wonderful years at the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission. I met everybody. Mm-hmm. I did everything. Mm-hmm. I learned a lot about producing events. Mm-hmm. And that's how my special event career started. Yes, As a matter of fact, my whole public relations career started at JCBC because we were doing more public relations. Mm-hmm. than cultural development, because in order to do real cultural development, we had to do a lot of public relations, special event planning, sponsorship, marketing of projects, sourcing of the funds and stuff. And in those days, the government never had money to give us in terms of, cultural administration, never had enough money. So we had to find our own way out of this. So sometimes we'd use our traveling to, to do events. But that experience developed our resilience and our creativity, and one had to exercise initiative, because you're competing with other parishes and you wanted to do well, so we had to find our way out. So the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission was a great foundation for training and development. I worked with some wonderful people. The Barry Johnsons, Professor Rex Nettleford, all the lighting people, so you learn the language of special events and special event planning and development. So after 10 years, one day I was invited to join the team at Alcan. And I was pretty reluctant, because of course I was doing pretty good. At the JCDC, we call Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, the JCDC. I was really reluctant to go. Not remembering that if one leaves the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission and goes down to Alcan, it's a total different salary structure altogether. So the salary was not in my mind. It was just the opportunity to work with some great people. I left as regional director of Manchester, St. Elizabeth and Clarendon. So separating myself from my friends and the work.
You found that hard.
It was very difficult.
Wow.
So, it took me a little while to gather myself. And of course, that's what you call a great conflict, because I really had to weigh whether that camaraderie was more valuable than the pay.
Right, yes. And sometimes the pay is not everything. Exactly. And so then once you got acclimated, how did you find it there?
Oh, wonderful. As a matter of fact, I knew, having had to create opportunities to, our own opportunities to, develop our program at the JCDC, I developed a very good relationship with the team at Alcan, especially those in corporate and community relations. The Weeder Rose, the Ransford Neal, Henry Salmon, and a wonderful lady by the name of Colleen Patmore Zen. She's now Colleen Spence.
Right,
She was just
know her very well.
hugely wonderful. So by the time I got into Alcan, I was able to tap into the friendships that I had there. And Colleen Spence was a great guide and protector. And that opportunity again became an eye-opener. It was not just a foundation now, but it was a huge opportunity to advance the skills that I already had from JCDC and from teaching and so on. But what Alcan allowed me to do was to expand my voluntary base. So at the time, my relationship with an organization like the Jamaica Constabulary Force, Alcan supported that relationship. So they gave me the funding to do work with the Jamaica Constabulary Force. And one of the iconic events that came out of that relationship is my developing the LASCO Top Cup Award event, which is such an old program now.
But what does that event entail?
So in Mandeville, we usually, every year we had an award ceremony to recognize police officers who did well, who excelled in the parish for that particular year. And we did it for many years. It was the only one in the island, so we're so proud of it. So at Christmas time, we joined the parish council and we have a big Christmas do on the greens in the park. And we'll have a major dinner. It was a great going out experience for the police and their families. We'll have a big dinner. The band would come down to Mandeville, and we would award the policemen and women who did very well during that year. And I chaired that team. Yes. And it was just so lovely. The whole parish and St. Elizabeth and Manchester representatives would come up and join us for that big do, like a massive do on the greens. And I did that for 29 consecutive years.
Wow.
Yes.
What?
Yes, it was. Wherever I was in the world at Christmas time, I would come home and do it for the police. So what happened now is that I guess Lascaux saw it and thought that, they would like to have something done like this. So they sent somebody to do the research, and we guided them. As a matter of fact, I sat on the judging committee, adjudication committee, when they did the first one. And that also evolved into the Lascaux Teachers Award and the Lascaux Nurses Award. A great show. So, Alcan had a wonderful relationship with the Jamaica Constabulary Force, and the bridge was my corporate relations work that was seated in the department that Ouida Rowe and Carleen Spence and Ransford Neal led. And that was really exciting.
I want to say something about change, because I'm not big on change. Change frightens me. So I'll just stay where I am and I'm comfortable there. But then I'm listening to you talk and I'm realizing that had you stayed where you were, albeit that you missed your friends and those relationships and stuff, you would have missed out on future opportunities. So listening to your story, it's saying a lot about being courageous enough to step away from your comfort zone and to embrace opportunities that come your way, because then you would not have done all of that.
Exactly. And I tell people that when I pray, I pray for three things. I pray for courage.
Right.
Courage to do things, new things.
Right.
Courage to explore and initiate and create. God has been really good to me. Then I pray for resilience. Resilience to bounce back if for any reason they should become a challenge.
Right.
God has been very good. So I pray for courage, I pray for resilience. Then I pray for endurance. So when I bounce back, if anything should go wrong, then I must be able to stay with it.
Right.
To stay with it and make sure it works over and over and over. And as I said, God has been really good to me with those. So every time I'm going to do something, if I'm going to move from one place to the other, I invest some interest in courage. And I ask God to give me this. I believe courage is such a great value.
Yes.
Because courage determines a lot of things. Where you go in life, where you did not go.
Yes.
Where you end up, and how you get out of it.
Yes.
Or how you stay in it and do well in it. Resilience is a key value too. Resilience is so important, and that's what a number of us don't have. Right. The resilience. So it works or it doesn't work, and then all of a sudden you give up.
Right. This is too hard.
That's just too hard.
Yeah.
But that's really a key value. And then the other one is endurance. You have to stay with it.
Yes, the race is not for the swift.
Exactly, you have to stay with it. And in my own professional and personal life, these are the values that have kept me going. I was in the plaza the other day and I saw a young man I taught at Knox when he was a youngster, a little boy. I could call his name. Dean Melville. He was a gem. Taught Dean when Dean was a child, a youngster. And Dean came over and he hugged me up and he says, "Miss, why don't you get old?"
That's such a great compliment.
Yeah, of course, he's such a lovely young man. And I said, I started to track the day I met Dean. It could have been 1979.
Wow.
Until now. And he's saying to me, Miss,
Yes.
Miss, he has a family, he has a nice wife, he has children, he says, Miss, just as if, he was in my class. And so, you have to have the courage to stay with it.
Yes.
You have to be able to fight back if there's a reason for you to. And then, as I said, you have to endure. So, having gone to Alcan, I met some of the most wonderful people. Of course, everything wasn't wonderful, but which workplace has everything being wonderful? It was a great transition and a different place because one of the shocking things that happened to me at Alcan was here I'm coming from an organization where we had no money. I mean, you had to be scraping, scraping to do a training. And here am I in an organization where, money. That's not the problem here. What is the problem? We do the work.
Yes.
And I met a great boss, a wonderful boss. Thank God I told him before he died. Ransford Neal. And I'm so grateful that I met him. He was the corporate relations division boss. I never liked the word boss until I went to Alcan. I realized that a boss was somebody who actually cherished the worker, protected the worker, and made sure the worker produced,
Facilitated.
By facilitating, I thought that was so interesting. Now, I'm not the easiest person to get on with in the workplace because I'm really a hard taskmaster.
Yeah, one thing, like if I could describe you in a nutshell, I'd say that you're a force to be reckoned with, right?
I'm sorry, I have to agree. Yes, I have to agree. And funny enough, I usually give the police credit for that, to be honest with you. Because I wasn't always like this. I'm grateful for the training and the exposure I got through the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Because most of my life skills were taught by policemen.
Wow.
Policemen. And they took me with them. They carried me with them.
Showed you the ropes.
They showed me like anything they did.
Wow.
I could do it too.
Really?
Yes, and some great human beings, the Lloyd Moores, the Lloyd Service, the Cecil Johnsons, the Kenyon Foster, Paolo Atkinson and his wife, Linton Latty, fine assistant commissioner, and those people. They protected me because I had something to offer them. So I did their training for them, we were the only parish, that was involved in training for our policemen because Alcan funded it.
So money was not an object.
Exactly.
So
yes, so we could go to a hotel or, so our police became part of the community, not just police. It was not us against them.
Right.
We were together in the parish, and it was a valuable part of my training and development as a female.
Right.
When there's a flood, right, the police chief would put us in the van, the pickup, and we'd have to go with pickaxe and dress up in our work boots. And the police chief, he was kind enough to direct us, and he would say, well, we can't go back home until we dig a trench.
Right.
We thought that it was so hilarious, that we're going as volunteers. But they protected us. They taught us stuff that you would do out there in the field, and then they became part of my personal development. So I became afraid of myself because sometimes I was too much like them.
Oh wow!
But it was such a great opportunity. So, and then it was just not Alcan, it was Alcan, Alpart, and Jamaica, because sometimes we would collaborate, would go down to the Alpart Sports Club or down to his, and would collaborate for community events. So there you had the Keith Browns, the Lance Meters, Fairweather, and over at Jamaica, you had Mrs. Forbes and some other folks who they made life happy.
Yeah.
Because the work would have been very hard, but life was just so good, and I'm telling you, one of my great regrets is that I can never left a leadership university as its legacy.
Right.
Because that's what they were good at.
Oh, yes.
That's what they were
really
good at. So having gone to Alcan, I stayed there for a few years and it was pretty grueling. It was not easy. But the support that I got personally was so valuable. I met some of the finest people who taught professional leadership. And not only that, but accountability was key. I mean, I'm serving on boards, and the word accountability doesn't exist. And I'm saying, there's no way.
It's hard for you to deal with, right?
Yes, it's very difficult because, it is so ingrained in me that if you're in the workspace, especially if you're a leader, I'm big on leadership. Anybody who knows me knows that my primary professional value is leadership. And that's what's giving us a challenge today in Jamaica. We don't have a resource problem. What we have is a problem with leadership. And leadership anywhere, in the home,
right,
in the service centers, in the schools. We heard today of some of the things that are happening in schools, under the nose of school administrators.
It's sad.
It's very bad. But the problem is that you have to teach people to lead.
Right. Yes.
That is my feeling.
Yes. You have some natural born leaders.
But there are not many.
But not many.
No.
Right. And even if you're a natural born leader, some of your skills have to be honed.
Yes.
And have to be refined.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And especially in an environment like ours, if you look across the world at some of the leaders that have not necessarily done very well. They are talented people. They are informed in their area of business. But they are not great leaders.
The leadership is lacking.
That's a special quality you have. The human being can be carried away by adoration and adulation, which leadership affords.
Yes.
So you put, a fledgling leader, you put an outstanding math teacher to lead a school with 2,000 children, 200 teachers. An outstanding math teacher was doing very well. That's an outstanding teacher. I'm outstanding already. So I'm elevated now because I'm outstanding in my field. I'm elevated to the position of principal or leader of the school to lead 2,500 persons. That's an awesome responsibility.
Yes, it is.
No, because you're an outstanding math teacher, doesn't mean you can be an outstanding principal.
No, it does not.
You see,
no,
and then you may be an outstanding bank teller, and then all of a sudden you become a bank manager because you're a teller.
Whole different kettle of fish.
Or you're a great detective.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you become the commissioner or the superintendent of police. No, you can't catapult people into leadership where they have to grow. One of our weaknesses here is that we don't nurture people. Leaders don't nurture people. We beat upon them, we bash them. But once you're designated a leader, your responsibility changes, into protecting, nurturing, grooming people, causing people to produce to their maximum ability. That's what leaders do. But in order to do that, you have to be able to get them to follow you.
That is true. Some institutions have such a high turnover rate.
Yes.
Whenever I see institutions like that, I know they don't have a good leader. It's like a revolving door because they're not being groomed, they're not being trained, they're just beat upon, as you call it. And so it's like, what is the value? What value am I getting from being here? I'm left to kind of just
play
swim
along.
Yeah. And if I drown, then it's just too bad.
Yeah.
You know.
And that happens a lot in the government sector, in the public sector, because as you say, there's such a great turnover of staff and leaders, and and sometimes there's just this lack of accountability. So it's not just accountability at the lower level. It's at the high level, and I usually wonder who accounts for the executive. Who accounts for the executive? No, the executive accounts for the underlings.
Right.
But who accounts for the executives? And sometimes that is sadly missing, especially in the public service. Now, in the private sector, that may not be so, because in the banks you have to produce.
Right.
In companies that, companies are for profit, you have to produce.
So looking at the bottom line.
You're looking at the bottom line, and I mean, at one of our banks recently had a major reshuffle. I mean, it frightened all of us. Because the head honcho thought, hey, we need to do things differently here because our results need to be different.
Right.
Now that does not happen as often in the public service. The public service is a totally different structure, and then you have unions. So if you happen to shift an executive in the public service, then you have other persons, other institutions, other instruments that you have to that you have to account to. That is, in my own estimation, a challenge. But until and unless we are able to train leaders and place them in areas where they understand that their job is to lead. I'm big on the police and leadership. Some of my experience have not been very favorable because I've been saying that the police need more leadership than management.
Right.
Two totally different areas altogether, because it's an organization where you have to empower people to produce. They can have computers and pretty desks and this and that, but unless they are motivated to lead their particular units, and unless the chief executive, who is the commissioner, leads in a manner that they understand that you are here because we believe in you, and if the executives believe in you, you are going to now believe in your underlings, and it's going to transcend the whole thing. Unlike the Jamaica Defense or the JDF, JDF has a different structure, because whoever you put there, they better comply. Because that's the structure. It's a military organization, so you better comply.
They're a whole different kettle.
But the police, it's a semi-military organization, and they work for the boss. They work for the commissioner. And if they don't believe in the commissioner,
then what's the
exactly, and it's such a difficult organization to be in charge of, because of the cross section of experiences and talents and beliefs and perspectives in it, that the person at the top has to be a powerful leader, not manager, a powerful leader. And there are other areas in Jamaica where the leadership has been outstanding, and we have gotten extremely good results. I'm a firm believer. I don't think we can get anywhere unless good leaders are placed in the positions to motivate, empower, believe in, urge, cajole people to produce. That's just what it is, So having seen that work at Alcan, I go to the United States and I see Alcanites. You don't have to ask. if these people worked at Alcan.
Really?
I'm telling you. I went into a particular state and I said to a guy, I mean, just the way he positioned himself in his workplace, I said to him, and he's Jamaican, I said to him, did you ever work at Alcan? And he started to laugh.
Really? Wow.
The rest is
That's
history.
Interesting.
Not only Alcan, but Heart. Heart is a new place now. But I happen to have been the chairman of one of the institutions in Heart. And I'm telling you, you could go anywhere in the world and pick out a person whose foundation began at Heart.
Wow.
Right? Those in the hotel industry, those in the service industry, they were just so outstanding. You didn't have to ask if they passed through Heart under the leadership of people like Robert Gregory and Don Foster and those people. Well-trained young people who understood the value of work. Up to now, today too, they understand themselves in the workplace. They know that their business here is to produce. Now, you can't be in the workplace if you don't produce. Yes, and so, it's just so commendable.
So you see, because they were held to a standard, right? Nobody has to push them. It has been like something that has been inculcated in them, so that they take that and succeed anywhere.
Anywhere in the world, you're acculturated that way. This is my life.
Yes.
This is how I'm supposed to be.
Right.
And if I'm any different, then I'm wrong.
Yes.
You know, it's like it turned my inside out.
Right. Yes.
You know, so, and you have, you know, persons who are so successful who pass through places like Heart and have been doing very well for themselves, and especially, as I said, in the service industry. I am not sure, and I'm hoping I'm not stepping on any toes. I'm not sure if Heart is achieving that today. I'm not sure, because, you know, the service industry in Jamaica is really in a bad way.
Wow.
In a bad way. Wow. You know, so what is the factor that has caused this erosion of the value of great service in the hospitals? You know, in the banks.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
You know, I went to my favorite gas deliverer the other day, and I was not
very happy.
Very happy. And I mean, it's a common discussion.
Yes.
You know, we are not satisfied with service delivery in the country right now.
That is true. And when you've been exposed to other cultures and the way people do things in other countries, then you see that we're very, very lacking here. I mean, I have a problem with service because, like, if you say you're going to do something, do it. You understand what I'm saying? And if I come into an establishment, I expect a certain amount of courtesy, regardless of how I look, regardless of how I'm dressed. I hate when I go into an establishment and people treat me as though I'm begging them something, or that they're doing me a favor. And it is so disconcerting. It is such a turn off, because I feel like it does not matter what your opinion is of me. You're offering a service, and therefore it behooves you to be courteous. It behooves you to, if you're advertising as being a provider of a particular service, I should leave there satisfied. And so I have a big problem with that. And in terms of being treated with respect too, even by public service members. If I'm on the street and somebody of authority speaking to me, please speak to me with respect. You know, I remember I was at the airport once, and a customs officer, his tone, because I asked a question, and you know, well, I'm not as fiery as you, right?
I wish I was.
Not as fiery as you, but I'm fiery. Yeah. So I said, excuse me. I said, you're acting as if I can't ask you anything, as if it's not my right to ask you if I don't know something, right? And he was taken aback, because I guess you're in a uniform, you expect me to. No, but I said, no, you're hello.
And the customer The customer has changed.
Well,
The customer expectation
yeah.
has changed over the years because, people are now responding to poor treatment with the advent of social media.
Right.
I mean,
I've seen some restaurants.
Exactly.
I've seen some agencies totally humiliated.
Exactly.
Right, on these viral videos.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And who wants to humiliate a service provider? I don't think anybody really wants to. But you go into a restaurant and you're treated badly, then that would rile up anybody. So they are going to be spiteful.
Right.
And you see, that's the challenge we have. If people understood, just like you said, that you're not there to do the person a favor. If you have a service, you're there to provide a service because you're paid to give the service.
Exactly.
Then they would treat people differently. It's an understand. That's why I've always said, poor service is a leadership issue,
Right.
not an issue at the level of the floor. It's not the waiter or the waitress. It's not the constable. It's not the teller. It's not the man who fills the tank of gas.
Right.
It's the leadership. It's the leadership, because if this organization is one that understands that there's an African saying, Ubuntu, I am because of you. I am because of you.
That's powerful. Yeah.
Yes, I am because of you. So if you understand that your supermarket or your gas station or your patty shop cannot exist without me. Me doesn't mean Thelma.
Right, the customer.
The customer.
Yes.
Then, when that customer rolls in, you would roll up.
Right, exactly.
And prepare yourself for the customer. So I've always said, and I don't spend time knocking the floor person when there is a service issue. I go straight to the top.
Yes.
Because it's always something to do with it. That bad habit transcends the organization. And it's usually, I've had so many experiences where I refuse to go into organizations unless they remove the manager.
Right.
I've had an instance where I had to say, I'm not going back there. I've been here for so many years. I'm not coming back here. Unless you remove the manager, because it doesn't make sense disciplining the underling. Because the posture of the underling, it could not be so profound if it was not coming from it. And I would not have been the first person. So if we understand how leadership affects industry or companies or organizations, then we'd go for the leader. I remember the constable had told a citizen a bad word, what we call a bad word. And the citizen complained to the soup. And he says, I never forget, he says, man, go to my office and sit. Wait until I get there. That's the constable. Because if you tell the citizen a bad word, you're telling me a bad word. You're not only telling me a bad word, you're also telling the commissioner.
Wow.
You understand?
Yeah.
So that man understood what leadership meant. Of course, the constable was disciplined and so on. He understood, because sometimes these things just fly out of our mouths.
Yes.
Remember where we are sometimes. Yes. When we are put under pressure. And some of us do hard, we have hard jobs to do.
Yes.
But there has to be that concerted effort, you used that word earlier, to teach our professionals or workers the value of great service.
That is true. I've seen you in action, and what I notice about you is that when you have a team that you're working with, you set up expectations. So no member of that team can say that he or she was unaware of what you expected of them, because you make it very clear. I need you to do X, you are going to do Y, you are going to do Y. And not only that, I expect you to do this by this date, by this time. I need you to do that. And hello, you have your tablet and you're going down your list, right? And so nobody can say at the end of the day that they did not know what you expected, because you set the bar high and you let them know what you want from the onset. So if they drop the ball, then...
Exactly. And if they drop the ball,
then Miss Thelma,
then yes, I am going to come down hard on you.
like
because,
a ton of
yes,
bricks.
and it's true. It is
Yes,
true.
yes.
I don't play ease up.
No, you don't.
And that's I practiced that over the years in my personal life.
Yes.
Hold me accountable.
Right.
You give me something to do, hold me accountable. Worse if you pay me for it. If I
Right.
collect your money,
Yes.
I'm going to deliver excellence.
Yes.
That's my mantra.
Yes.
Do it now and do it well.
And do it well.
Do it now and do it well. So you're right. I'm in the people business because I love people.
Right.
As I said, I'm a very hard taskmaster. Why? Because if you allow people, they run away like water down a gully.
Give them an inch.
Yes,
take a mile.
people don't.
That's
but
the
if
nature of people.
That's how people are.
Yeah.
But if you cause people to understand that we are all in this together.
It's a team
It's
effort.
a team. So
Yes,
if one
yes.
person fails,
we all
we
fail.
all fail.
Yes.
I can't go over and say Jabez caused us to fail.
Yes.
No, I would have failed.
Yes.
Because if something goes wrong in Jabez's area, I am supposed to know.
Right.
Long before this happens.
Yes.
So leaders see into the future.
Right.
They have
And
foresight,
disciples.
hindsight, insight. Right?
Like that,
They
yeah.
must have foresight, hindsight, and insight. Okay.
Right.
So you must be able to predict,
Right.
see it before it happens. And when something is wrong, you must have the insight to get something going before the apocalypse.
Right. And hindsight too is they always say hindsight is 2020.
Of course.
So then therefore you can by virtue of hindsight look at what has gone wrong and decide, hey, we're not going to let this happen again.
Exactly.
Because this happened because of X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
So we're going to make sure that X, Y, and Z don't happen. So hindsight would then allow you to make changes.
Exactly. But because we're talking about leadership, I find this such a profound discussion because it's one of the sore points that I deal with every day. And I'm saying we can't, as leaders, go down the line and blame some little person down the line and beat up on that person, fire the person without the head.
Yes.
The head has to be held accountable.
But I've heard people in leadership positions say to staffers that stone run downhill. Right? So that simply means that, hey, if anything, you're going to be the scapegoat. So if something goes wrong on a big project, the leader is not taking the responsibility. He's going to blame the little guy. Right? Never mind that he was not a good leader. You are the one who's going to take the blame for this.
No.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't go that way in leadership because the leader is supposed to know. There are times when I'm working with people and they say, Miss, you're psychic.
Yeah.
I'm not psychic. You have practiced this over a period. So I have some persons before me and I know who's going to drop out.
Right.
We have been in things together and I've been able to say to you, be careful.
Right.
Because it is likely based on body language, based on posture, based on some other thing.
History
that this person is going to let us down.
Yeah, wow.
Now, quietly would have been putting in a contingency.
Right.
Because I feel strongly that this person is going to let us. Yes, this person is going to let us down. And I can't tell my leader, who perhaps would have given me this project, that Jabez had the flu, or Jabez, had to take a day off to relax at the beach.
Car troubles.
Yes, our car troubles. As a matter of fact, I had an event once, and the chief executive officer came late, and we had scores of executives waiting on the chief executive officer to come in and give the keynote, and I couldn't believe that a chief executive officer could be late. It never occurred to me.
Right.
And this was when I established my own office, and having now been placed in a position to lead my own team and collect my own money, not somebody else's money, my
right.
own money. But I left with the same values. Leadership is the be-all and the end-all of any organization. And the executive came late, and we had scores of executives in the room waiting. And I was mad, because I did not know that a chief executive could have car trouble. And I said to the chief executive at the time, I was really mad, and I said, you walk out the car and leave it by the side of the road. Just leave it by the side. Because you can't keep other people waiting as a chief executive. You just can't.
Yes.
I don't care.
Yes.
I don't. Leave it by the side of the road and call somebody.
Yes.
But you cannot keep scores of executives waiting because you have car troubles. I don't believe in that. Now, it's easier for me to say that, but I believe that you cannot keep people waiting for frivolous reasons like car or nonsense. No, because you have to have a contingency. You're traveling from here to wherever. Roads are bad. My car is not so reliable. Take a taxi.
Right.
Beg a ride. Call somebody to come for you. But you cannot expose your company like that, because of course the old saying, first impression is lasting. I've never forgotten that experience. And every time I'm in the company of that executive, I remember this. And the executive is a great human being. He's a great human, but I can't flush that from my mind.
And that is the thing. Sometimes it doesn't matter how you do in terms of greatness. You could be a great person. You make one mistake and that is what defines you going forward. And I mean, it shouldn't be like that, but it is like that.
It is like that. People, they say you have just a few minutes
to make a first impression. Right,
so you had better use those few minutes
wisely,
and wisely, as you said. It's difficult, but it's a commitment you have to make for yourself. And I live what I preach. I have a phobia for the word apology. A phobia. Like a great fear.
Really?
I do not use it. I do not wish to use it. And I do not want anybody to apologize to me. That's my life. That's my professional and personal life. That's the commitment I've made for myself. I was discussing that on our way up with Mrs. Spence. And I'm saying, I don't understand the use of the word apology in the space within which I operate. Because if you harm somebody, you get up and you harm somebody, what's the use saying you're apologizing to the person? Now, a psychiatrist or a psychologist or some brilliant person may tell me that the apology is to compensate for the sorrow you feel. But I do not wish to have your sorrow, your apology, because you would have already harmed me. And I'm going to be left harmed for life. And all you did was to come over here and say, I am sorry. So I don't write the word sorry. I don't use it. I don't use the word apology. I don't apologize for anything. And I do not wish to have the experience of people apologizing to me, because I don't really think it makes sense. Anything I do, I tell myself this is a deliberate act. If I step on your toe, it's because I'm passing here and your toe was in the way or something. But I don't understand why people dwell on the apology, because it does not make sense. We hear it in the public space every day. There are current cases now in the public space, and people are asking for an apology. I don't know, when you hurt people to the bone, you hurt people. I go to court and I hear the man apologizing to the judge. Judge, I didn't mean to do it. Just say, I accept your apology. Your contriteness is important, but there is a fine.
There is a consequence.
There is a consequence. consequence for your harming people.
Yes, and that is the thing. We don't think before we act, and then you act and want to come and apologize.
No, some actions are not deliberate though. I can contradict myself by saying, if your action is not deliberate, then you have to apologize.
Right.
You know, I'm not that thorough with analyzing the word apology, because I really believe that it's an overused word. That sorry, you know, it's just so overused. So I'm sure pastor would not agree with me. My pastor friends and my pastor would not agree with me. But we have to get to the place as a people where we understand that the harm you inflict on someone is so egregious that it can have a debilitating effect, and an apology can't help. Apology cannot and will not help. Perhaps it will make things worse. So you have to now build a life around not making apology the center of your being. So I have erased the word apology from my vocabulary. I've erased the word sorry. So my intention as a human being is not to harm anybody.
Right.
You know, that is my intention.
Going back to your example, suppose it is then that you're passing by me and you step on my toe. It was not your intention.
How do I deal with that?
Yes.
Well, I regret stepping on your toe.
No, but it's just a matter of semantics. It's like tomato.
Exactly.
Miss Thelma.
Exactly.
So I don't know enough.
Sorry is so overused. Sorry is so overused.
So
but
like
if I say I regret stepping on your toe, that's a kind of different scenario. But it's a very important point you made, and that's why I'm saying my pastor would not agree with me. Christians would not agree with me to say I do not want to hear the word apology.
Yes.
But, you know, that's me.
I do understand what you're saying though, you know, because in the Bible, Jesus had said, look, you're to forgive others as you want to be forgiven. When you say the Lord's Prayer, forgive us, you know, our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. So, you know, there is an expectation that you're going to do things that you're going to be sorry for and whatever. But the thing is, which I kind of, tell me if I'm wrong, I think what I'm getting from you is intention, right? People need to be more aware, right? You don't just go out and do things. And even like you're talking about church and past and stuff, you have a lot of people who call themselves Christians, but they just live life however they want. Then because they know that, I can just go to God and beg for forgiveness. So like that now I can understand. Like when you say, hey, what are you sorry for? Because you keep doing stuff and then you're coming to say that you're sorry. No, how about you just don't do stuff? You know what I'm saying?
And that's an excellent point you make. In our culture, there is a belief that the Lord forgives you in the church space. And I've seen people, you know, I've had recent cases to handle of people, including pastors, people who call themselves pastors, doing some egregious things, both to adults and to children.
Right.
And when I ask about the consequence that should be meted out to the person or persons for such a behavior, and these are people who are involved in Christian work, and I'm trying to understand, why would you commit yourself like that?
Right.
And why is it so easy for people to say, well, the Lord will forgive him, but what about the victim? And in some quarters it is said that we cannot be the adjudicator. That person committed himself. Leave it to God to administer justice. Then I pass this person driving up and down and having ice cream
Right.
and
As if
fried chicken.
As if
And the
yeah.
victim is exposed.
Yes,
The victim has lost their mind, has lost their home, has lost their family, has lost their being, and stuff and stuff. So, and then you're saying, leave it to God. That's a very complicated thing to analyze.
Yes,
very
yes.
complicated to me because
Yes.
I'm judgmental.
Yeah.
And I don't say that lightly.
Yeah.
I believe that if the person using the various methods of discovery that is used wherever in the situation and the person is found wanting, it has to be a consequence.
Yes.
God put us here and gave us a brain.
Yes.
To develop consequences for misdemeanors.
Right.
That's why he gave us a brain. He gave the doctor a brain to find a healing method for an illness. Now I pray to God and ask to strengthen the hands of the doctor and so on. But I can't sit here do nothing and say God will deal with it. God has given us the power. He's empowered us. To set rules and parameters and demarcations in terms of our behavior here on earth. And part of that empowerment is for us to develop a structure that if something happens and it is so egregious that it warrants a consequence, then you have to exact the consequence.
Right.
And then in exacting the consequence, that person has to now go to God or go to the person that he offended or she offended and seek some conciliatory adjustment.
Right.
We call that forgiveness.
Right.
I'm not very good at forgiving. I must declare.
Yeah, I struggle
I'm not
with that
very
too.
good.
I struggle with that too.
Why am I not very good?
I struggle with that.
I'm not very good because forgiveness has a structure, right? The structure allows you to deal with the person who offended you as if the person did not do you something. I must declare I don't have that strength. It's just me. I don't have that strength because we live in a culture where it is felt that if you harm somebody and goes over to the person and says you're sorry, and then you kneel down and you pray and ask God forgiveness, then that person should throw it out. Don't have you up, so to speak. I am a little wary of that because let's repeat.
Right.
Because we keep doing that because we think we're going to heaven because God is going to forgive us for this wrong. Regrettably, I do not think so. Now, that's a little bit higher than my pay grade to discuss. But I've always thought that if we keep harming people and begging forgiveness, you see it every day in the communities. We have marches. People burn children.
Yes.
Burn children, and we're supposed to forgive these people. And that's why in other parts of the world, they exact the same.
Right. An eye for an eye.
Yes, it's scary.
Yeah.
But I really believe that we should find a way now to start thinking how this value of forgiveness is structured and how does it help the person who was harmed.
Yes.
Because some of us are not satisfied that we're administering this forgiveness well, because sometimes we don't think it works.
Right.
Because we can't manage to forgive somebody who has done an egregious wrong. People have done me some egregious wrong. I have no intention
Or forgiving.
Yeah, I can't find it yet.
Yes,
I'm not saying you shouldn't.
Yes,
For me, I can't find it yet.
Yes.
But I have to also deal with that.
Yes.
And I have to deal with that seriously.
Yes.
And that is why I said to you earlier, I don't go there to intentionally harm somebody because I find it very difficult to forgive.
Yes.
I find it hard.
Yes.
So if I find it hard to forgive, why should I expect the person to forgive me? And society now has to structure our relationships with people in a manner that is less strenuous. Less strenuous on the victim.
Right.
And the victim can be anybody. Yeah. But the key here is the harm done to the next person. That is the key. And I'm frightened by when I go out into society and I see some persons who were victims way back when, now being perpetrators. You see, that's the challenge we have.
Yes, that is.
You know,
that
schools, name it.
Yeah,
you know, children who are beaten upon. My mother did beat me when we did little.
Yes,
so,
yes, yeah.
You know, joke with me, I go beat them too.
Yeah.
You know, and because of that now, we perpetrate the violence and the ill will, the discord and the disharmony. So because we know that there's a forgiveness that is guaranteed and it is waiting someplace, then I don't believe that many of us make a great effort not to harm. And harm here can mean, you know, it's on a spectrum.
Right.
Harm can mean anything. You know, harm. Yeah. And I think that's the problem we have because of how religious we are, how God-believing we are. And we really believe that if a man rapes a child, that somewhere down the line, God is going to forgive him. And we don't remember, some of us, that is, that child who is raped is damaged beyond repair for life. And I use rape because that's the strongest I could come up with. That child, boy, girl, is damaged beyond repair for life. One person said that you damage the soul of the child. So you can think of a child's soul being damaged.
Yes.
So here you have a body being a chief executive in an organization. And that adult, as a child, was raped, meaning that adult was damaged beyond repair for life. Your soul is damaged. Now, think seriously about the human being that is there leading an organization with a damaged soul.
Right. You know, the thing about it is, a lot of us are walking around and we're damaged. A lot of us, 99.9% of us are damaged. How do you navigate though? Because if you do not find it in yourself to forgive and let go, even if that person does not come back to you and say, I am sorry, because I know how I am, it will eat at me until I probably lose my mind. So I have to find it in myself to say, you know what? I'm just going to forgive this person, let it go. I'm not going to have any interaction with them whatsoever. They don't have to be your best friend. So I'm not saying, and it's not like I'm saying they're not responsible, but I have, somewhere inside of myself, I have to find a way of coping with that. And one way for me to cope with that is just to, you understand?
The person.
No, you have to just, manage the person, but then also manage.
Banish.
Oh, yeah, banish.
Get the person out.
Yeah, you banish the person, but then I also have to deal with whatever hurt and damage that was done.
Okay.
So.
And I understand you clearly. And some of us are not as strong as others.
Right.
And when I'm hurt, you know, I'm not very good at wallowing in hurt. I'm not very good at that. Whatever.
Do you wallow in anger?
No.
Okay.
I hardly get angry.
Oh.
I try not to get angry. I remember a gentleman asked me once if I was ever angry because I'm always pleasant. Which is really not true.
Yeah, I was just looking at you like, really?
That's my professional face. But I try not to be angry. Within recent times, I've had to try and quell my anger because I've had some issues, that have been that have happened that I have to deal with,
Right.
and they make me angry.
Right.
you know, but I make sure I'm angry inside my living space.
Right.
When the anger comes is when I'm out in my leadership space and I see people harming others and not being held accountable. I really am obsessed with that because I know that is our problem. Now, I also remind myself that there are 3 things I pray for.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Nothing beats those 3.
Yes.
Doesn't matter how profoundly professional you are or I am. There's nothing that beats those 3. Courage to do the things I want to do. Yes. Courage. Courage is not the absence of fear. You know? Courage is the ability to manage fear.
Right.
Not the absence of fear.
And do what you need to do in spite.
Exactly. So I pray for courage.
Yeah.
Then I pray for resilience if I fail or fall. To bounce back.
Yes.
To bounce
get
back.
up.
Yeah. So if you harm me,
Yes.
or if I'm harmed, or if I harm myself, I don't know what that would be. You know, if I hit my toe and I fall down. I want to be able to bounce back.
Right.
So we have courage. Then we have resilience. And I want endurance to stay with it.
Yes.
So if I'm
Stick-to-itiveness.
right, if we talk about not being able to, so I tell myself that. So because I know I'm very weak on forgiving, I have to find ways now of coping that in case I see you again, I can be pleasant to you and you don't exist.
Right. Yes.
But it's the courage to do that I want. It's the courage that I want. To see you and give you my cheek-to-cheek smile as if nothing ever happened. That's the courage. I haven't forgiven you yet. It's just the courage to see you in the space. I also want the resilience to bounce back from what you did to me.
Yes, yes.
You know,
yes.
that's the resilience.
Yes.
You know, and then I want endurance to stay there and see you pass me by every day and not be malicious, vindictive, spiteful. Because that's for the higher one.
Yes.
He will have it out with you.
Yes.
I can't do that.
Yes.
So, you know, I coach myself. And once I, you know, and I, like every morning I pray for courage. That's what I think I need most. And as I said, the resilience. I'm already a manager. I'm really a talented singer or speaker or cook, you know, or housewife.
Yes.
But what I don't have is courage. I need plenty of that. I need plenty of resilience. And I need plenty of staying power. Stay with it.
Yes.
So every time you pass me, I can give you my best smile.
Yes.
You know, and treat you very well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because I'm enduring.
Yes.
You know, I have the endurance to deal with what happened. And that is why that is how I deal with my inability to forget easily.
Yes.
And forgive.
Yes.
I tell people all the times I'm not great at forgiving. And I have to pray.
Yeah. Hard.
Yes, for my forgiveness to be strengthened. Because the logic of forgiveness is still difficult for me to accept.
Yes. That is something that I've struggled with. And, you know, in order to be able to move on and to let certain feelings go, I had to just forgive. Whether the person is asking for forgiveness, yes or no. I remember a conversation where God said to me, look, it's not even for that person, it's for you.
Right.
Because when you can forgive, you can release something, where you're not walking around just like stressed. You just let it go.
Emptying yourself of that disharmony.
And that disharmony.
And the stress that accompanies it.
Peace of mind for. You understand? So I can see why he would say to us, forgive. Now, just want to touch back on people just doing whatever they want. and feel like they can just go to court and say, well, I'm sorry
Mm-hmm.
to a family that you've harmed
Mm-hmm.
by taking away the daughter
Mm-hmm.
in a very horrendous kind of
Mm-hmm.
way, you know, that kind of thing. Now, for people out there who are just living however they want and feel that there are no consequences, like, you know, sometimes pastors will do something and within their organization they just get transferred to another parish, and they transfer to another parish, and it's not dealt with, and you know, and then they're saying, oh, whatever I do, you know, God's forgiving me. Yeah, okay, well, people forget about people like Moses. When Moses did something wrong and God punished him for that, because you have done this thing, you will not see the promised land. David, for putting a man in the heat of the battle and getting that man killed so you can get his wife. Well, guess what? Your firstborn with that woman is going to die. You know, sometimes people come to me and bring up David, men who want to cheat. And I'm saying to myself, you forget the punishment part of it. We don't get to do whatever we want, hurt people, and then just expect that, okay, I'm going to do this anyway because I'm going to be forgiven. People who go out there and they cheat on their spouses, well, you know, God will forgive me.
Cheating is a different story.
Oh, Lord.
It's such a difficult story to handle because, you know, spouses on either side cheat. You know, I think we spend a lot of time, I guess because that was how we are acculturated, that men cheat.
Right.
Men cheat.
But it works both ways.
Women cheat.
Yeah, it does.
Women
work
cheat
both.
a lot. And
I feel like sometimes women are better at hiding.
yeah, which is unfortunate. But, you know, in my life, you know, I've had to agree with myself on certain things that I will not do. And perhaps that's why I'm not married. You know, when I was a child, it never dawned on me even one time that I should get married. Because I'm afraid of losing my identity. I mean, you know, most of my friends know that. I'm afraid of being Mrs. so-and-so and not Thelma.
Right.
You know,
or John's wife.
Or John's wife.
Yes.
And the men have a way these days to refer to their wife as wifey, which is so insulting to me. You know, they don't call the wife's name.
Yes,
They say
wifey.
It's the most insulting thing.
I feel like you can call your wife wifey in private, but not when you're speaking about her to other people.
I understand why somebody should be called wifey.
Wifey.
But it never dawned on me. Because, you know, I was focused on my professional accomplishments.
Right.
You know, I wanted to be a great human being. I'm very contrary when it comes to leadership because I make a better leader than a good follower. All right, I'm afraid. I tell people all the time that I am afraid of being led.
Right.
I'm really afraid of being led.
Yes.
Having seen through my life's trajectory people who have been led astray by weak leaders.
Right.
I am afraid.
And that is the thing.
Yeah.
When you say weak leaders, according to the word of God, men are the head of the house. But then what if you have a man who is a weak leader?
Exactly.
Then you just
he's going to take you downhill.
The entire family down the drain. Right. And I am of a similar personality where it is hard for me to follow somebody down the drain. No, if I see that something is going wrong, I jump in and take charge and fix it. You understand what I'm saying? And so women like us don't necessarily make great wives.
No, I wouldn't make a good wife. I tell you, it's hard for me to say that, but I discovered that about me from when I was a teenager. That my male friends have a hard time with carrying me along. They carry me, you know, and as I said, some of them are so more powerful than I am that I have no choice. And I relish, I get excited when I see a male that I can follow.
Yes.
Because that is not usual for me.
Right. Yes.
Because I have been schooled by male leaders. So I'm like them. I have a masculine brain in female clothes.
Right.
So,
yeah, that's hard. That's hard. When
that's
you have a
very
masculine
difficult.
brain with female clothes, that's hard.
That's very
because
difficult.
you're more like an alpha.
Right.
You know, you're the leader of the pack.
So,
Yeah.
and I pride myself in knowing everything.
Yeah, yeah.
When I went to university, I went to New York University. When I went to New York University, a professor said, "Is there anything that girl from Jamaica doesn't know?" I pride myself in knowing everything.
Yes.
And anybody who happens to be in my space, you know, people who work with me, I tell them the same.
Yes.
Never you say you don't know.
Yes.
You must know.
You must know.
It doesn't
Yes.
matter what it is. You
Yes.
must know. You must have this unquenchable thirst for knowledge and
Right. So if you don't know,
unquenchable
find out.
thirst. Find out.
Right. I agree.
You must know.
Yeah.
Nobody in my space should say to any customer or worker, you don't know. First thing, you must know.
No, right.
And I'm going to be upset if you tell me you don't know.
know, right.
Because I think it would be better if you say, would you give me some time to find out?
Yes.
I don't have the information now.
Yeah.
If you give me a few minutes, I'll find out, or may I call you back with the information. But I don't believe
You just
that
say,
you should be
yes,
in this space
and say
you don't know. You must know. That's leadership. Now, for me to exchange that, my search for knowledge, and I'm a good reader, I'm always reading, and be subsumed in a leadership that is running me downhill, I'd be insulted. I'd be insulted. So the first thing I go into an organization, and this is funny, when I go into an organization, I let people know that I'm not very good at following.
Right.
So if you don't want me here, that's fine. Because I want to lead.
Right.
And I go in a group, I tell
You're the
people,
leader.
I want to lead. Because I'm afraid of being led.
Yes.
I'm very afraid of being led. Some people say it's arrogance, but I tell you what I
I
think.
don't think it's arrogance.
Don't put me there for some people to lead me,
Yeah,
because I'm not going to function well. You put me to lead the group, I'm going to treat you well,
Yeah.
and I'm going to allow you to maximize your potential. That's my role, and that's what makes me important in a space. If I get in a space and I can get everybody to perform at their maximum,
Yes.
I would feel very special
Yes.
about that.
Yes.
But I don't want to come in this space and have to deal with somebody who's treating some people badly and then telling me they are the leader. I'm not going to work well in that space. And I make that plain and straight. Very recently I sat on a board, and when I listened to the chairman speaking to ladies, I took off my bag and I walked. One, you can't fight the chair in some instances. It's not necessary. And we live in a world where leaders are misleading people.
Yes.
You go into church, you hear
Right.
some nonsense in
In
church.
church.
Speak to some ministers who are my good friends and they know they are brilliant people. But I'm telling you,
Yes.
I hear some nonsense.
Yes.
And people jumping up and knocking tambourine and carrying on.
Yeah.
You know, because they are not listening to what the leader is saying.
Yeah.
I believe that you can be contaminated,
That
sent
is
out to contaminate your community
Yes.
and others.
Yes.
And
yes.
I don't want to be contaminated because God is a God who also has his own way of dealing with those of us who contaminate in his name.
Yes, exactly.
In his name.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. And you see, the thing about it too is that when you're talking about leadership, it's so important because you're mentioning the church and how people are being misled. Leadership is also important in families. So parents lead children. Children can't raise themselves.
No.
You know? And so leadership is important in terms of parenting. It is important in terms of marriages as well. To have a strong leader as the head of the household. And being a strong leader does not mean that you dictate to others.
Absolutely.
It's like you said, how can I get all of us to work as a team and be effective at a particular goal? So my opinion matters, the other member's opinion matters, and you're going to weigh all these opinions. And even if you don't agree with anything, but you can say, I hear what you're saying, but I believe that if we do X, Y, and Z, it will be successful.
Of course.
I can appreciate that. So I am a born leader, but I don't find it hard to follow if the person I'm following is a good leader. Now, if you're not a good leader, we have a problem because I'm going to open my mouth. Yeah? And when you talk about submissiveness and stuff like that, then you lose me.
The first time I heard the word, I said to my boss, we were discussing the word submissive. I hate the word. There are some words that just don't occur in my vocabulary because they are antithetical to my being.
The dictionary.
Yes, they don't line up with my thought process. And I heard a husband complaining that his wife, who I knew very well, was not submissive, and he was serious. Yeah, and they were really having a tiff. And I was really shocked.
Yes.
And he came and he asked me what I thought.
Oh Lord.
Which was
wrong thing to do.
Yes, wrong. It was really wrong. And I said to him, the only time I hear the word submit or submissive is when my boss tells me to submit the work. I don't have any choice. That's the only time. Yeah, that's the only time I want to hear the word submit or submissive. That's the only context I know. Remember, these words come up in the religious context. You know, there are people who are better able to describe them and apply them than I am because they are so cultured. But in the Jamaican context, I'm offended because the word submissive in a family is a bad word in Jamaica. You know, where we most times operate. When you go into first world countries, you don't hear this word. I don't know, but I don't hear this word being very popular. Yeah, no. Our social and cultural trajectory is hinged on a plantation scenario. So I am very careful and very wary of some words that somehow find themselves in family vocabulary, church vocabulary, workplace vocabulary, because they mean other things.
Right.
And sometimes we tamp down, you know, the growth of others by using these powerful words in a relationship. If you tell me to submit, I'd be angry because I'm not so cultured to handle this word in a male-female relationship, which is my context, because you know you have other relationships across the world. But in my context, I've never met a male to whom I should submit or want to submit. And I'm hoping I never meet that human being because that would be a totally different human being to me. And there are not many people like those on earth. Neither do I want anybody to submit to me. These are very scary words. And especially in the church context, where a lot of people, I find church sometimes scary because it's women who go to church and men who preach. You see, that's what's scary. We have some great preachers across the world. When you go into their space and listen to them, you just embrace them. But every preacher in church is not like that. And many of our churches have male preachers. And when the whole experience is done on a Sunday or Saturday or whatever it is, then sometimes I see people who are so wrapped up into this submission or who are so confused by it that they damage their relationship. They injure their relationship because they don't understand what it is. And the real truth is, we don't need to do that in relationships because relationships are shared experiences.
Give and take.
And
that is true because you have a brain, I have a brain. Don't expect me to put my brain to sleep whilst you're talking and leading, and I just must nod and say okay. That I don't think that is how it should be. I feel like it is a team effort.
And with relationships, the relationships I find where the word submit comes up is those relationships that are devoid of love. You know, when people start talking about submissiveness and something, they're heading to a counselor.
Yes, because
I find that in my experience,
yes.
when each side starts complaining about submissiveness, they're heading to a counselor.
Yes.
Now, to me, love is so endless and so all-encompassing and consuming of the emotion that I don't know why I would look at my partner and tell him to submit. I don't know why I would use the word to him, because I I have a fear for the word.
Yes.
I would never even think it. Now the person who is going to consume my loveliness could not look at me and tell me to submit. Because submit to me is antithetical to my whole approach to life.
Yes.
I deal with, if you love me and I love you, I don't care what happens next.
Exactly.
I could not care. Because that is going to determine the tone and texture of this experience. And those are among us who have been loved by great people, who understand you, who believe in you, who know your limitations, know your strengths, and can deal with that because you're now combined.
Right.
You don't need these words.
No, you don't.
Because the loveliness in this love that you're both involved in will determine all the things that happen in there.
When you're talking about loving somebody, what then does that mean? Because if it is that you are the way that you are, right, and I am the way that I am, you know that from the start. So then therefore you have accepted me. But then once the ring is on, then I need to change who I am. That to me is a problem.
That's such a premature expectation. It's such a deep thought we go into when we talk about loving somebody. I usually say, can you imagine you go to the theater? You go to the theater, which I love to go to the theater.
I do too.
That's the only time I get to eat a hot dog and drink Coke or Pepsi. And the theater is dark. Inside the theater is dark most times. And a gentleman or a female sits beside you, depending on who you are. And the gentleman, after a period of time, strikes up a conversation with you. And in the darkness, he says, I love you. In the darkness, he says, I love you. And all of a sudden, the two of you leave the theater and you go home with him, or he goes home with you. Remember, this relationship started in the dark, in the theater. And so many weeks, or sometimes days, down the line, you get married. And you expect that this person should come out of the darkness, which was the foundation of this relationship, and now head into the light where he does not appreciate the word submit. That's a little much to ask a gentleman, or a lady. So the word love to me is also, some of these words to me are scary words. Can you listen to people say, I love you? I usually look in the newspaper. This is my favorite. I love to look in the newspaper at these weddings. The newspapers carry these lovely weddings. And I've always saying to my friend, the way a man, most times it's the woman who is hugging the man. Most times. You look at those pictures. It's the bride who takes control of the hug. Many times. Try it. Look at it this weekend when you see the newspaper. And it fascinates me. I've seen where the man sits on the woman's leg for a photo shoot. But in days gone by, it's the man who hugs you. And he doesn't hug you from behind. Some of these weddings, the men hug the women from behind. So, but the man will come before you and hug and embrace you. Right? And then sometimes you see them, and when you look at the quality of the hug,
Yeah.
I don't know if you read these things, like I love to do that. The quality of the hug suggests that these people don't know how to hug.
Yeah.
Because the quality of the hug is so poor.
Yeah.
You know, it's so bad.
Yeah.
That it is just for show. It is not because you love me and I love you.
Yes.
It's
I
just
think
it's
it's
a show.
reflective.
I see that in the
Yes,
photograph. No,
yes,
I'm
yeah.
not being dogmatic here or saying you have to believe. I just observe these things. But you're right. The quality of our relationships, meaning our intimate relationships, shows up in the way we interface in the public space.
Right. When you talk about leadership, not only in the workplace, it is in other areas of society. And when you talk about home life, that is affecting how people, treat others and how they lead in, so everything is
Interlinked. Yeah.
Interlinked. Very, very interlinked. So it's like we've come full circle to the issue that we started out with, which is we don't have effective leadership.
And to lead somebody or something or a group, you have to be able to lead yourself first.
Exactly.
You have to be able to lead yourself
and
first.
Hold yourself accountable.
Exactly.
Yes, and set expectations for yourself.
Yes. And be quick. Be very quick to hold yourself accountable.
Yes.
Because if you don't, you're going to transfer this to the various social and professional spaces within which we operate, and we can benefit. I want you to hold me accountable. I don't mind you holding me accountable. And because I am already acculturated to hold myself accountable, I feel no way about holding you accountable. And I don't care how close we are.
Yes.
I've been in situations where I have to hold my very dear friends accountable. And they understand me that I love them very much. But here we don't talk two sides of our mouth. We have to lead and lead so that somebody else can see us as an example. Not that we're going to be saints or we're going to be angels, but it's not for the leader, the person who puts himself or herself up as the leader, whether you're appointed, assigned, elected, like some leaders we know across the world, where they contaminate the space. And it's not for you to go into a space as a leader and contaminate, damage, injure the space.
Yes.
It's for you to go in that space and cause harmony, goodness, to germinate in that space and produce people who have high expectations of themselves, who love people and love themselves, and who can interpret the space within which they operate in a manner that will inspire other people to come in this space and be the same and do the same.
Yes, because in terms of leadership, you cannot be the only person benefiting from the situation.
No.
It has to be that everybody within your circle benefits from your leadership.
Yeah, that's such a great point you have made, because that's the mistake we see in our spaces, our various professional spaces. We see people making that when they become a leader, it's about me.
Yes.
I.
Yes.
How many people I can fire? How many people I can insult? How many people I can cheat?
Push around.
How many people I can cavort with in the workplace? And that is so wrong, but it's so common that sometimes you wonder if that is the new normal. No, but it's for those above that person or those persons to hold these persons accountable. But if you're not able to, where do we go from there? Because as I said, we were given a brain by God, and God empowers us to go out there, live and love.
Yes.
Live and love. Live in your professional space, live in your social space. Love in your professional space and love in your social space.
Yes. And it's not only to live and love, but to live well and love.
Yes.
Well.
And remember when I started, I said my mantra is do it now, and do it well.
Yes, absolutely.
Do it now, and do it well.
Yes. Well, Miss Thelma, I could sit here and talk to you all day. Honestly, this was just amazing, and I hope that you'll come back and we can have another 2-hour conversation.
Of course. I've enjoyed this. It was so delightful. It started out that way.
Yes.
And when I entered the room,
yes.
I felt this delight in it.
Yes. Yes.
So I look forward to coming back. You're very special. And I wish you well.
And so are you. You're very, very special. You know, I have to admit, when I first met Miss Thelma, I was so intimidated by her. Because, like I said, she is a force to be reckoned with, right? She'll just come into a room and she'll just exude that kind of authority. And she'll, you know, okay, put this over here, put this over. We're going to start serving from here and we're going to go down the line. And she comes in with a vision of how she wants things to go, and she anticipates problems. Hey, if we do it this way, this is what's going to happen. So it's better if we do it this way. And at first, you know, having seen her operate a couple of times, I'm like, whoa. You know, I followed whatever she said, but I'm like, oh boy, this lady is not to be fooled with. But then I sat down and talked to her, guys, and I was just like wowed by her, because underneath that hard exterior is just like a heart that is just so sweet. And I left after our first sit down thinking, wow, I really like this person. So it was an honor.
Thank you.
And you're so kind, you're so giving, you're so sweet, and you absolutely practice what you preach.
Thank
and
you.
That's the thing about you, you're not hypocritical at all.
I can't afford
Yes.
that's wasting time.
Waste of time, yes.
But you see what you get.
Yes. So is that a wrap?
Yes.
That's a wrap.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'm so delighted.
Thank you for sticking with us until the end. If you enjoyed this program, do come back. Until next time.